like to start asking me a question. Yes, me?
So is your favorite pharaoh?
This is a very difficult question because we have, the ancient Egyptian history is very far away. So our favorite pharaoh is the one called Ramses II. Ramses II, Ramses II. This was the most powerful pharaoh, but we have a dilemma about this man because if we consider it according to the power, the stability, the authority, he was one of the most powerful pharaohs. He has built a lot of mega structure at his age, not the pyramids, but high temples in Luxor and things like this, and people were very rich at his time. But on the other hand, when we consider the prophet Moses, a lot of things, especially these days, say that he was the pharaoh who was against the prophet Moses. So we as Egyptians, you are going to be surprised of our answer. If we compare prophet Moses and the pharaoh, we like prophet Moses. So if history proves that Ramses II, which was the most powerful ancient pharaoh, was what we call him the pharaoh of Moses, we would not sympathize him. We would sympathize Moses because he's a pharaoh, a prophet, and we believe in him. So it's a dilemma. So we have a wise saying or a proverb in Egypt: when someone starts to be nice and then turns to be a bad man, he said, "Oh, the man whom we think to be Moses comes out to be the pharaoh." So it's very, but we have a lot of other pharaohs like Chebus, Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid. It was a very important era in Egyptian history, and we have also Amenhotep, Thutmose, and they were all Greek kings. So we also have Cleopatra. She was a very famous. So we have a lot of pharaohs. So it's not easy to choose. Yes, Tafadhal.
Who do you think? How did the Great Pyramids get made? What's your opinion on that?
Being built?
Yeah.
Yes. The answer to the first question, who built the pyramids? I will say the Egyptians. Because anybody who lived in this part of the world is going to be Egyptian. We consider them our ancestors, whether they were of Arabs, of pharaohs, Africans, or anyone. But how the pyramids were built? If you see the pyramids, you would say that it's very difficult to answer because the stones that were used to build the pyramids, I'm not going to give the exact size, but it says from here to this point, or this. The one rock or the one stone used to build them is like this. So it's very difficult according to our point of view about their age, and they didn't have machines and things like this. So it's still a dilemma, or it's still a mystery. But at least it's a remark of the tranquility and the good conditions that Egyptians lived at this time. But it's still a mystery for scientists and I am for their attention. So I can't predict. Another people say that it is, but it's a new book. We just read it just 2 years ago, saying that the pyramids were not built only 5 or 4 or 7 years. It's about 70,000 years ago. Oh, it was very strange for us how they said because people at this time were giant. We were very tall. So if you consider the size of the stone to them, it was such a small so they could carry it and build the pyramids. A lot of people said, but up till now we are not sure about the pyramids and how they built. But I hope when you visit Egypt and you come to see the pyramids, you can see it's a bigger structure at this age.
What do you think? Is it big people or aliens? What do you guys think? Big people?
Do you think it's a giant?
Aliens? I think
Aliens. But anyway, I didn't, but to be frank with you, I didn't participate in building the pyramids.
He wasn't there.
Any other questions? Yes.
How do you guys use school and get just the same?
It is the same, but you know, in our areas we have large number of people. So we live in the Nile Valley and the Delta. So our towns and cities are much crowded than here. So the distances are not that long. So the way from my school, for example, the school where I live, and my house is about 7 minutes away, walking. So I walk to school in most cases. But for high schools, for example, sometimes students have to ride local transport. But it's not that long or not that expensive because it's short distances. Yes, you?
What type of food do you have in Egypt?
You know, we have most of the Western foods. We have, but we have special flavors. We like. I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to show you a lot of photos of some Egyptian foods. But we, like you here, we have meat, chicken, in addition, but we have some different dining habits. Because in addition to our food, for example, here you can go to a restaurant and order chicken, meat, in addition to French fries, right? And that's all. But we have to incorporate in our meal either bread, rice, or macaroni. It's very basic to have one of these. You can't go and just order meat with potatoes. You have to eat either, but in most cases, the basic meal for us, for you, what is the main meal? Is it dinner or lunch? Yes? Dinner. I think for most of you it's dinner, right? But for us it's lunch. So we have rice and meat and chicken for lunch. We have some special kinds of sauce or flavor that contains onions, garlic, and tomato sauce. That is added to most vegetables. And sometimes we add some kind of vinegar, but we use white vinegar. That's for lunch. And for breakfast, we have different types like eggs, cheese, and we have a very famous and popular, the most popular food for breakfast for Egyptians is fava beans. You know fava beans? Yeah. It's a kind of beans. It's not common here, but we have it and we have restaurants, so we make fava beans. It's like something like chili or something like that, but we have our own way in cooking it. You can find very many restaurants like this, and they are very cheap compared to other restaurants. And we have also a very famous food which is called kebab. We call it kebab. Kebab is barbecue like you, but we have different seasoning ways and ground meat and things like this.
And you put it on a stick?
Sometimes it's put in a stick.
Think of a kebab on a stick, you know, where you put the meat and the vegetables on a stick.
Yeah, it is the same way.
Okay.
Yes?
Do you guys have grocery stores?
Grocery stores? Yes, we have big groceries like you, but we have many corner shops. You know corner shops? So if you want to buy anything, you need to go to Costco or Albertsons or things like this, but on the same street you can find everything. Is it okay? So you can buy cheese, buy meat. If in one street you can find everything you want, but in small shops like this. Yeah, so we can go. I'm going to answer all your questions. I can go this way. Yes, you?
Do you guys celebrate the seasons like Christmas and other seasons?
You know, we have some certain celebrations. Like we have two feasts, because most of Egyptians are Muslims. But for the Christmas, we just celebrate it as a celebration. But we have a good number of Christian minority, so they celebrate the Christmas, and we participate sometimes with them. Sometimes we put flowers, sometimes like this. But not all the Egyptians celebrate the Christmas. But we have celebrations like this. We have the spring day called the Sharm el-Nisim, which is originally taken from ancient Egyptians. So we celebrate it in different ways, going to gardens, colorful eggs, we're eating salted fish and things like this. Yes?
What game?
Soccer. You know soccer? Egyptians are mad about, are crazy about soccer. So if you consider the last 3 African championships, the Egyptian team won these championships. And it's not so easy because you know Africa has very good players in Barcelona, Real Madrid, in Italy, in English club. So it's something very difficult. It can't be believed to beat a team like Cote d'Ivoire or Cameroon or Nigeria because they have professional players in very famous European countries. So if you consider our players or you compare our players to those players, they are much, you can say, cheaper. You know, soccer players are sold, for example, this player is sold to Napoli for $4 million. This other one is sold, we can hear these numbers, we can say 13 million euros and things like this. For certain African players, our players is not that famous, but you know we like what we call team show and enthusiasm. So they won the last 3 championships. So, but we have also basketball for myself. I like playing basketball in addition to football, but we don't have large number of playgrounds or basketball courts like that of football. Children like playing football in the streets, in clubs, everywhere you can find soccer. We call it football, but you call it soccer. Yes, another question?
What kind of plant life do you have there?
Plant life?
Yes.
Yes, we have farmlands, but we don't have a lot of natural plants. Because, you know, as I told you, we have the basic source of water for us is the river Nile. So we live crowded around the Nile Valley and Nile Delta. For example, when I came to Missoula, I was amazed by the large amount of natural plants you have. You have a lot of natural plants. In some desert areas which are not inhabited, we have some cactus, some very useful medical herbs and things like this. But natural plants like you can't find anywhere. But if you ride a car, for example, in roads, in lonely roads and in rural communities, you can have nice views for farmlands on both sides. Yes?
What kind of pets do you have?
Pets. Concerning pets, some Egyptians have they say like you, but not that number. Some Egyptians have cats or dogs, but not that amount. For example, if a city like Missoula, you can find 200 or 300 people having pets in their houses. But we don't have a lot of pets like this. In some places in Cairo and things like this, people have the same idea of having pets inside their houses or inside their flats, because most people in Cairo live in flats. They have dogs and cats.
You know what it
Sometimes
means when he says flat?
Apartment. You know, flat is an apartment, and some of them have tortoises, turtles, small turtles, and things like this. But it's not very common like here. Yes. Any questions? You?
What's your tradition like?
Yes. I dress like this in Egypt. I dress like this when I go to school. I wear clothes like this. Most Egyptians, when they go to school, go to work, wear like this. Or sometimes they wear jeans. Sometimes they wear suits. So the Western style of clothing is very popular for officials, for people, for most Egyptians. But we have some traditional clothes like jalabiya, sometimes it's called galabiya. It's like a long apron. You are going to see its picture. And women wear the same clothes, the same Western clothes, but most Egyptian women are veiled.
Yeah.
Yes, they cover their heads according to religion, and of course it has become a culture for most Egyptians. Most Egyptian women are veiled, but some are not veiled. Yes?
The same for kids. What they wear.
For the veil or hijab?
Yeah.
No.
No, they don't.
No, I can show you now a class or an Egyptian class, small clip of an Egyptian class. You can see kids at your age, they needn't wear hijab. But when they go to, they start, most Egyptian kids or young ladies wear hijab at the end of the middle school and at the beginning of secondary school. When they became adults. Yes?
They have like electronics?
What?
Does Egyptians have electronics?
Electronics? Of course. We have every kind of electronics you can imagine. But I can understand your questions. If you compare the conditions now in Egypt and compare it to 200 years ago, for example, and compare these conditions to countries like Japan, China, or things like this, 200 years ago, Egyptian was considered a world power. So it was very advanced country compared to Japan or China or something like this. It's not that far. But now if we compare ourselves to Japan, where do we import a lot of things, we import a lot of electronic food, China and things like this, we are not that developed. But we have a lot of electronics, a lot of cars. If you can find millions of cars in Cairo, we have a lot of things in our apartments. But our houses is sometimes different because of the size of the houses. So for example, you have the washing machines here. You have a washing machine and a dryer. Yeah, but most Egyptian houses have a washing machine and a dryer in one equipment. So they work because of the limited space for us. Okay. Yes?
Do you have an age limit of when you have to use it to drive?
Again?
Do you have an age limit of when you get to drive?
Yes, 18. 18 or, yes, 18 years, you have to be 18. Because driving in our country is very difficult compared to heaven. Yes?
Do you guys have amusement parks?
A museum?
Amusement parks, like
Carnivals.
carnivals.
Disneyland.
Yes,
places
we
like
have
that.
it everywhere, and it has widespread over the last decades. Like Disneyland, parks, we call it parks, like many and many in every place.
You guys have like pools then?
Pools?
Swimming pools?
Swimming pools? Yes, we have swimming pools, but in some areas and in some elaborate clubs. But we go to resorts. We have a lot of resorts, a lot of famous resorts, and people go swimming on the shores of. We have two seas. We overlook. Egypt overlooks two seas: the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. So in the summer we go to most Egyptians go to the Mediterranean Sea shores, and some of them go to the Red Sea shores. Yes?
How old do you have to be to get married?
You have 18, at least 18. But Egyptians, most Egyptian ladies get married after they finish university, so they could be 21. But the whole students of technical schools finish at the age before this, 4 years before this, so they get married earlier. But for men, they finish university and start finding a work and saving some money, and then you can get married. Yes?
What does your money look like?
Again?
What does your money look like?
Money? Yes. Money, I hope I can find our money. Our money is like this. It's junay. Junay means pound. Yes. So this is 10 pounds. 10 pounds.
Would that be worth in the United States, 10 pounds?
Unfortunately, it's about $1.50. So it's one. This is 10 pounds. We have the pound in paper and as a coin. And
Can
this.
you pass that around? Let's take a look
Yes,
at
if you can pass it. And this one. This is 150 pounds.
it. Wow, that's big money.
50. You can show it to the.
Let's make sure those get back to
Yeah,
Mohammed.
and was this is 5 pounds, and this is 5. You just pass it.
That's a good math problem. 50 pounds.
Okay, just a minute to pass it and see the coin and the currency.
So David, if you guys, have you all seen that? Will you make sure that they get to see it too? And Zach, have you pass that to
$1
Rory's
equals
table?
6 pounds.
And they have white.
$1 equals 6 pounds. When I came last time here into the USA in Atlanta, $1 equaled about 4 pounds. But now $1 equals 6 pounds.
Jordan, did you see?
Yes?
You still believe in your God?
Yes. In most Egyptians we have, let's say all Egyptians are either Muslims or Christians. We have a little minority of Jews, but they traveled during the 60s and the 70s, and let's say all Egyptians either Muslims or Christians. To a good extent, they are emotional concerning religion. Yes. Yes?
Your buildings look like ours?
Look, us in Missoula, no. Because as I told you, we have a large number of population. So in towns like mine, we have 5 floors, in most cases 5 or 4 floors houses. So you live in an apartment made of concrete and bricks. Yes?
How much would 50 pounds be worth?
Divide it by 6 because $1 equals 6 pounds.
So about $8 or $9.
Yes. Mine about 8.5. 8.5. Yeah. Yes.
Do your credit cards look different?
What? Credit cards?
Yeah.
We have Visa cards and things like this, but it's not common like that. Here you prefer to use credit cards, but in our country we prefer cash. Yes?
What are the punishments? Like, do you get caned or
What are the punishment for what?
for like going against the law?
Which for example, which crime or which penalty? And I'm going to tell you.
Like, if you vandalized a car or
You pay a fee. But for example, we have some punishments according to the law and according to our religion. Not all of our religion, we call them hudud, are applied in Egypt. So some of our laws are derived from French law. But according to our religion, for example, a man who kills someone should be killed because he killed a man. So if you kill a man, you have to be killed. But if you didn't mean to kill him, for example, you were driving and killed him, you can pay him a fine to his people and things like them. And we have a lot of penalties, but I think it's near to the law in the USA. But we have some things, for example, if you have a gun in the street, or if you have a pen knife, and think, I just knew this, it's allowed here, for example, to have some weapons for guarding and things like this without a permit. But not in schools, of course. But in our country, it's very difficult to have a gun because we have a large number of population. So streets are crowded and things like this. So sometimes the law, in our law, it's a very severe punishment because you cause panic to other people.
So just so Mohammed knows, how many of you know whether you have a gun at your house or not? How many of you do have a gun?
Oh.
Wow, see, he's very surprised by that.
Yes, because
This would not be
you know this
permitted
number
by
can
law.
exceed the number of people having guns in our city.
Yeah, but how many people in the whole city would have
Yeah.
a gun?
But you know, we can, I don't know, but some punishments are appreciated. For example, having a gun in our streets, because our life is very full of people. So if you have a gun in a very crowded street, sometimes it's going to be frightening to other people. So this is according to the law. If you want to ask about any other penalty or punishment for certain behavior, I can tell you.
If you rob a bank, or
First, if you rob a bank, you can go to prison for 7 years or something like this. But according to the bank, according to the amount of money and things like this.
do you have like witnesses?
Of course, we have police. Yes,
What's the punishment if you try to sneak out of Egypt?
sneak out to Egypt.
Sneak out.
Try to
Sneak
get-
to get out of Egypt.
Are you allowed to leave Egypt without punishment? Is it easy to leave Egypt?
No punishment for this. Because we have some certain cases, people go to other countries to find work and things like this. And I think they are not punished for this. And for myself, I believe anyone should travel to any country if he is peaceful and he doesn't cause troubles in any other way. This is according to my opinion. So you can find thousands of Egyptians travel to Europe, but they are very poor. Travel to Europe and for example tourism and stay there. Because they find a good job, perhaps they got a better job than the ones they get in Egypt, so they stay and bring the visa. But when they go back to Egypt, I don't think they should be punished for this. They are going to be asked some security questions. You shouldn't do this again and things like this, because the country where he stayed for or broke the visa should take the action. Okay. Yes?
Are you allowed to hunt with weapons?
What?
Are you allowed to hunt with weapons?
First, we have nothing to hunt. We have nothing to hunt because you know, rural area has every parcel of our land is farmland or for residing people. So you can go to the desert and find something to hunt, but it's not that easy. The second thing, we are not allowed to have a weapon except for you have to get a permit for this weapon, and it's very difficult. For example, if you have a big farm and you have to guard it, sometimes, of course, if you are a policeman, if you belong to anything related to military and things like this, it's according to their work. But it's not easy to have, for example, sometimes the truck drivers, but they who travel long distances can have a permit. But for me, myself, I'm a teacher. If I go to the police or something, I want a permit for weapons, they won't allow me, because I live in a safe environment, going to school, and a large number of people around my area are protecting me. So it's not allowed for everybody to have such things. Yes? Yes, you?
When you misbehave in school, do they have like detention?
Students, do you think that?
Yes. We don't have detention. It's very rare to talk about this. Detention is not very common. But we have other ways. But in most cases, as you know, it's very rare for a teacher to take action against a student. And sometimes we have rules, but we don't